5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! Boom! 2 cameras now. How do you like me now, YouTube? I got my GoPro finally up and functioning. So now I can look at this camera. I can look at this camera. And now we're good to go, man. Alright, so today I want to talk about the good old Bernie Sanders. He's running for president now. If you guys didn't hear, actually, let me just look this up for you guys. Bernie Sanders is running for president. He announced his presidency not too long ago. So let's just look at that really quick. Bernie Sanders 2020. Where did he announce this? Announcing presidency. Here we go.
Now that breaking political news, Senator Bernie Sanders announcing just moments ago that he's running for president again.
This morning, Senator Bernie Sanders is making it official.
Together, you and I and our 2016 campaign began the political revolution. Now it is time to complete that revolution and implement the vision that we fought for.
Sanders sent this message to his massive list of supporters, letting them know he's getting back in the ring. His improbable run in 2016 gives him an edge in name recognition for 2020. He started that race as a little-known independent senator from Vermont.
I know that if I do this, I start off as a significant underdog.
But his progressive platform, universal Medicare for all healthcare, free tuition at state colleges and universities, $1 trillion in infrastructure spending, caught fire as thousands flocked to his rallies hoping to feel the burn.
Welcome to the political revolution.
Sanders struggled to win African-American voters in states like South Carolina, and he ultimately conceded to Hillary Clinton at the Democratic National Convention.
I move that Hillary Clinton be selected as the nominee of the Democratic Party for President of the United States.
But in a crowded 2020 field, early polls show Bernie Sanders near the top of the contenders. Now, Bernie Sanders begins this campaign dealing with it.
All right. So now, before I go on, I'd like to say that this video is sponsored by the Girl Scout cookies. No, I'm just playing, but for real, go buy your Girl Scout cookies. It's a shame people just walk by these innocent children and don't even drop $5. Like, just drop $5, man. Buy cookies. You know? And they're good, too. It's not like they're not good or anything like that. Like, fucking. Okay. Today I planned on going through his agenda to kind of tell you a little bit about Bernie, because a lot of people back in 2016 when Trump was running against Bernie, they didn't know what Bernie stood for. They didn't know the problems that his agenda imposed on people among all income brackets. Basically, my argument against Bernie Sanders and my argument for Bernie Sanders. Well, let's just go over his agenda first. Bernie Sanders agenda. Agenda for America, 12 steps forward. I was looking at this in school and I was like, I don't know how. Okay. Let's start with number 2. Reversing climate change. Now, this is actually very important because as we speak, thousands of cars across the nation, millions of cars across the nation, industries with factories that produce a lot of chemical waste are polluting the environment right now as we speak. And they do that every day, all day, 24 hours, 7 days a week. It happens all the time, and we need to definitely rethink the way we approach saving our planet, because if we don't do that, future generations are going to suffer because of our actions. And I don't think that's fair, because I mean, we don't think about it now because we're born in during this time where the industrial age basically just kick-started. But if you look at it 100 years down the line or 200 years down the line, you're going to be, not even 200, like I think way before that, you're going to be dealing with pollutants all over the world. And I don't think that people that come after us should have to deal with those kinds of things, you know? There's going to be a lot of health consequences that come with this. I mean, imagine you were born 100 years from now, or 200, or whenever this whole thing is going down. And, I mean, you're dealing with cancer, and you're dealing with all these other byproduct diseases that come from these chemicals and the chemical wastes. Aren't you going to say, what the fuck were we doing? Aren't you going to say, why didn't we pass some kind of policy or some kind of regulation in place that limited our chemical footprint, our carbon footprint? I mean, it's pretty fucked up that we don't think about it this way, especially because we were literally given an opportunity to live in a time where we haven't gone through this process yet, where we're still going through the process that's going to create this dystopic world, but we currently don't live in it. We're kind of just enjoying the last bits of where nature is somewhat okay. We're looking, if you go outside right now in Los Angeles, you could literally see the smog line. Like if you look towards downtown, you could see a line of pollution, like just a cloud of pollution that enshrouds the whole city. But if you go somewhere a little farther from the city, you don't see that no more. I don't know how fucked up it's going to be in a couple years, but I definitely think that we should do something about climate change. So, I mean, Bernie Sanders is good on that one, but let's look at the other stuff. Creating worker co-ops. We need to develop new economic models to increase job creation and productivity. Instead of giving huge tax breaks to corporations which ship our products to China and other low-wage countries, we need to provide assistance to workers who want to purchase their own businesses by establishing worker-owned cooperatives. Okay, so basically, democratic socialism. I had a conversation with with one of my professors from my political ideologies classes, and she was pretty much telling me that, well, the way it works is that this whole structure of employer-employee is going to be abolished. Well, the theory suggests that it's going to be abolished. So there's no longer going to be a top boss that's at the top of this hierarchy, and then a worker that's getting paid the very bare minimum at the bottom. You're not going to see this triangular hierarchy anymore. You're not going to see the big bosses at the top, the CEOs with all the loads of cash. And you're not going to see the really poor workers that are working for these so-called CEOs, because this theory suggests, or this idea is going to abolish this whole hierarchical system, because now these workers are going to be working amongst each other, and each worker more or less has a say in how the company or corporation functions. So you're not going to have a worker that's working for someone that's insanely rich. You're going to have a worker that's working with a person that started the company, or maybe they started the company together. Everyone's going to have some kind of like a type of union. That's the best way I could describe it, a type of union where everyone kind of has a say in what kinds of policies are going to be implemented in each company. And so there's two ways of looking at this. There was a recent podcast with I forgot his name, but a recent podcast with Joe Rogan. One of the guys was at the very end of it. I believe it's the most recent one with this guy that was talking about the drugs on war on drugs. War on drugs. So this guy at the end of the podcast, he was talking about how studies prove that people that have more say in a company tend to like their jobs even more. He gave the example of these two guys that were working at a bike company, or they were working with bikes, and not that they had anything wrong with the boss or their job place, but they thought that they could do basically what they were doing at the bike shop on their own and start their own bike shop. And I'm not sure if they were brothers or friends, but basically each one of them was given equal responsibility and equal pay, and everything was kind of, they shared the fruits of their labor together. And the study proved that this kind of relationship amongst workers makes the job that they're doing much better. I guess that makes sense, but I also think that you need to have different levels in jobs. I think that there definitely needs to be someone that's in charge of someone else, telling them how to do their job correctly. It's like supervisors are always looking over workers to make sure that they're using their time effectively and that they're doing the amount of work that they need to be doing. And I mean, if you don't have this separation of labor amongst different brackets in this hierarchy, it's going to be chaotic almost. So, I mean, the theory, I guess it sounds pretty cool, but at the same time, I'm not sure how this whole thing would function in practice, because I mean, I've never seen it before, and it's not the capitalist way of doing it. Okay, so let's skip this one. Raising the minimum wage. This is an important one. This is something that people look at the most when they're thinking about electing Bernie Sanders. Raising the minimum wage sounds good again. A lot of socialist ideologies and a lot of socialist goals, they sound good in theory. Raising the minimum wage sounds good because on one hand, we're thinking workers that are getting paid the bare minimum are going to have a little bit more to maybe, I don't know, pay their cars or pay their rent or to put better food on the table. But at the same time, when you raise the minimum wage, and if you take an economics class, they'll tell you, the professors will tell you that raising the minimum wage doesn't do very much, because what that basically does is raise the prices of everything else. So like, let's say for example, you own a store, you own a grocery store, you're a local grocery store owner, and they just raised the minimum wage to, let's say, from $13.50 to, let's say, $17 or $18 the hour. So now this is a big jump in the minimum wage, a big jump. So basically what you need to do, what you're going to do as a local store owner, is raise your prices to compete with this level of increase in minimum wage, because then you're not going to be getting as much returns as you were before. And this is how you're going to be running a business if you want to make sure you're still generating the same amount of revenue to pay your own bills and to pay for your products and to pay for your rent and to pay for the well, if you own the shop, the mortgage for the shop and so forth. And if you don't do that, what you got to do is lay off one of your workers. Usually it's the person that's doing the least good in your workforce. So the person that just entered into your job position, if you just hired someone, that's the person that's gonna leave, basically. And I learned that from I don't know if I was moving the camera. My bad if I was moving that camera. Damn, I just moved it again. I'll just switch to this. I'll just edit it so that this camera is the one that's doing most of the production, I guess. But like I was saying, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so when I took microeconomics with Professor, I think Joshua, I forgot what his name was, but shout out to that guy, man. He was a good ass professor, and he put it out plain and simple, very objective in his approach towards teaching economics. So he taught that if like I said, when minimum wage goes up, the person that owns a local store is going to have to either increase their prices or lay off people or both. Which is, I think it's pretty fucked up, because no one wants to be laid off because they raised the minimum wage. I mean, you wanted the minimum wage to go up because you wanted to make more money, not make any money at all, right? I mean, that's gotta suck. I mean, let's say, for example, you vote Bernie, and then a couple years down the line, the minimum wage does go up to $18 an hour, and now you're fired because, I mean, you were the person that was in the entry-level position, and now you don't have a job, and now you're making $0 an hour, and you have to find another job that's going to want to accept someone during this crisis of $18 an hour minimum wage. So it's a little bit more fucked up to raise the minimum wage than to just keep it the same. The argument, I understand it. The argument is that, listen, there's families out there that are living off the minimum wage. I get it, right? There's parents that are living off the minimum wage. I know, I understand. And they have kids, and they have to pay for bills and this and that. When someone tells me this argument, I always tell them, usually the people that are earning minimum wage aren't these people. I mean, yes, there's people out there that make minimum wage that are parents and are putting food on the table for their children, but for the most part, people that are, and the statistics prove this, for the most part, that people that make minimum wage are not people above the age of 30. They're usually younger adults, usually late teens, young adults, like I said, they don't have any children, that don't have the responsibilities of a full-grown adult, and they're usually going to college. Because people that are making minimum wage are usually people that are, like I said, in college, or they're doing it for a part-time job, and they're basically on a platform that's going to take them to the next level. So like college, right? Like I just said. So that's why they always say that college is an investment, because you're putting your time and effort while maybe also going to work so that you could be making even more than minimum wage in the future, so that you don't have to be worrying about who's raising the minimum wage and voting for a president that's going to do this. I'm just saying that as a full-grown adult that's above the age of 30, you should know and have the responsibility to not be making minimum wage, especially if you have children. And if you have children, children are something that I believe should be premeditated. You shouldn't just have a child by accident. Like, that shouldn't be happening anymore in 2019. You know, there's all these resources that are out there that you could take advantage of, that are going to, prevent pregnancy, especially if you're a young adult. If you're a young adult, you shouldn't be thinking of children, especially if you're, like I said, still in college and are living off of minimum wage, because then you're forced to get two jobs. Like, I know a mutual friend that right now is working two jobs and is going to college because she has a kid. Well, I should have said it the other way around. She's going to college and has two jobs because she has a kid. The only reason she has to do those two jobs that are both minimum wage is because of her kid. But if she didn't have that kid, she wouldn't have to be working two jobs. She'd only have to be doing one. Meanwhile, her parents support her. So, I mean, like I said, minimum wage, it's not going to be worth raising it in the long run, because people are going to get fired. Prices are going to go up. It's just not worth it. Pay equity for women workers. Now, I love this one because this has already been debunked. Okay, the basic argument is that women make 79 cents to every man's dollar. And I think that statistic changed. Now it's like 83 cents, because the last time I was in one of my classes, cultural anthropology, the professor said 83 cents, but like 2 years before that, the statistic was 79 cents. So it's going up either way. But I really love this one because people still use this argument as if it's still valid, but it's not. Pay equity for women workers is a myth. I mean, the women getting paid less than a man is a myth. There's a lot of factors and variables that go into this, and I think it's important that I tell this right now, because a lot of people in college or in high school are getting taught that there's some kind of systematic discrimination against women, that because they're getting paid less than men. So the argument is, like I said, 83 cents to a man's dollar. That basically means that women are making 83 cents for every dollar that a man makes. So, like, let's say, for example, a man makes $100, women made $83, and there's statistics that show this. But I think people have to be very careful with the statistics that they're looking at and what they really show. Because let's say, for example, I pull up a statistic that proves this. Okay, women are making 83 cents to a man's dollar. Let's say there's statistics that show that nationwide. The reason, they don't give you a reason. Statistics are just what is, but they don't explain. If you look into it, you could see that women are actually making less than men because of maternal leave, different job occupations, and different job hours. Those are the main three things. Usually women tend to choose jobs that pay less than a man's job, because men have more access to jobs that suit them, like construction, firefighting, policemen. Now there is women in the police force and women in the firefighting force, and there are few women in construction, but they're out there, but it's very few. So these job occupations, they tend to be a little bit more dangerous and require a little bit more, I wouldn't say size. I guess size and strength, because to be a construction worker, you do need to have, or a firefighter, you do need to have a certain amount of physical strength or size. If you look at a firefighter, you're not going to see a short one, and if he is short, he's usually stocky. These kinds of jobs require a big physical frame. I'm not saying that women don't exist that have a giant or a good physical, strong, stocky frame. They definitely do exist, but you're not going to see them in the numbers that that there are men built that way. And that's for the simple fact of testosterone and the way we've evolved through evolution. Men tend to be bigger in size than women. That's just, it's obvious. I don't have to pull up a statistic on that, because I mean, you could see that outside. I mean, you could just walk outside, you're gonna see that women tend to be smaller in size than men. There is variation, like I said. There are women that are taller than other men. I'm not a tall guy. I'm pretty fucking short. I'm like 5'6", 5'7". And there's women that are like 6'4". They'll fucking knock my ass out if they wanted to, right? But like I said, there tends to be more men that are built for jobs like construction working. And I think it's also because for the longest time, construction workers were perceived to be, construction working was perceived to be a job suited for males, and also like firefighting and being a policeman, but that's slowly changing with time. Maybe you will see more female firefighters in the future, and more female police officers, and more female construction workers, but there is also a limitation. Like, you could only have that many women in this world. There's more men suited for these kinds of jobs that require a strong physical attribute. Aside from that, you also have to consider work hours and maternal leave. A lot of women in the United States get pregnant and give birth every day in the country, and after that they have to leave their jobs because of maternal leave, and so they reduce their amount of hours working, and that's not put into the statistic. They're just putting out what is, but they're not showing how many hours women are working in comparison to men. In fact, there's a separate statistic that shows that if you combine the same occupations men have with women and the hours worked, it's almost identical. It's almost the same, except women make a little bit more because of all these new policies that have been going into place that help support women and give them a higher pay. So, like I said, the 83 cents to man's dollar, that's a myth. It's been debunked, and any professor out there or any teacher that's teaching this right now, you guys need to stop teaching that bullshit, because it's not true. And you go to professors or teachers because you want to learn something that you think is true. And like I said, professors are a medium of knowledge, and if professors are putting out bullshit, and because I'll give you an example. The last time I went to my cultural anthropology class, not last time, but during one of my lectures, the professor was putting up the statistic that, well, the 83 cents to a man's dollar shit, and she was teaching in front of 450 plus students, telling this bullshit ass lie that women are discriminated, that women are discriminated based on their wages. Like, what I mean is, women are getting paid more, and I mean less. Women are I'm fucking this whole thing up. Women are getting paid less and are therefore getting discriminated against. And 450 students just sat there quietly and just kind of nodded their heads like, yeah, this is fucking true. Like, I've heard this before many times. And that kind of disturbed me because, well, me being a political science major, doing these kinds of types of research every day, it kind of disturbed me because I knew that wasn't true. I knew it was bullshit. I knew I had looked into it already. I knew that I had already done the research. I knew that I had already done all the stuff to prove that this is incorrect. And a professor was still there teaching these lies to people as if it's true. and everyone would have just walked out of that room and accepted that as a fact, because you're not going to question a professor. You're not going to say, hey, maybe she's wrong. You know, you're not going to do any of that. But I did. I knew that if I didn't do this, I was going to be doing a disservice to everyone in academia that's studying to do something. If I didn't speak up, I knew that everyone, 450 individuals, were gonna walk out of this room and tell you don't know how many people in there are going to be influenced by that and tell other people this, and then now everyone thinks that this is true. So I knew that I had to say something. I knew that I had to stop this whole thing and just say, hey, it's been debunked. It's not true, and you need to stop saying this. So I raised my hand and I told the professor. I said, that's actually not true. It's been debunked. It's been explained. The reason that the statistics shows that is because, like I said, maternal leave hours worked and different job occupations. And in the separate statistics, you can see that, okay, what I just said basically. And everyone in the class acted as if I had just committed a crime in public. It was like chaos, because anyone that speaks up against this kind of argument is going to say, "Oh, so you're a misogynist. You believe in the male patriarchy. Oh, you're just like everyone else that hates women, that is anti-feminism." And I'm not. I'm for truth, you know. So it's kind of fucked up. The response that the class gave me was pretty messed up. Everyone was shouting at me. One of the girls next to me said, if that's the case, then how come female NBA players get paid less in the WNBA than the male players do in the NBA? And I was like, that's easy. There's a larger market for people in the male NBA than in the WNBA. More people watch the NBA than the WNBA, so there's more money in the NBA to give out to their players. And that's not to mention sponsorship deals and like LeBron James putting out a shoe. Like, LeBron's were very popular, and all that contributes to his income. And that, if you look at the statistic, it's going to show you women make less in the WNBA than men do in the NBA. So, but there's no explanation. You're just going to see what the fuck, what's wrong here? Why are women getting paid less than men? And the simple explanation, like I said, is that there's a larger market for male NBA players. And there's also going to be these sponsorship deals and these brand deals with Nike and with fucking Adidas and all this other shit that's not taken into account. And that's something that we have to change. People that are into sports, we have to, if we want to see women make more, we have to watch the WNBA. We have to want to buy their shoes if they put one out there. We have to give them the attention, because at the end of the day, people working in these companies like the NBA, they're not concerned about discrimination. They're concerned about money. And the saying goes, money doesn't discriminate, right? If there was a larger market in the WNBA, wouldn't these companies want to take advantage of that and put their money into the WNBA instead of the NBA if the market was larger in the WNBA than the male NBA? Of course they would. But the thing is that we as citizens, as people in the public, we like to watch male athletes instead of female athletes. Now, I don't know why that's the case. Maybe because we just like to see sports in its most alpha stage. We want to see sports at its highest level. That male athletes outcompete female athletes all the time. That's why you don't really see females in the NFL. I mean, if females could outcompete males at a way greater rate, then we'd want to watch WNBA instead of the NBA, because we want to see peak athletes. We want to see the best of the best. When you go to a game, you want to watch someone that's going to make you say, what the fuck? How the fuck did he just do that? I could never do that shit. If you see someone do a fucking slam dunk right in front of your face, fucking jumping 4 feet into the, I don't know how many feet into the air, you're gonna be mystified. There's this mystique around athletes that enshrouds them, that amazes us, because we know that we're never going to be at that level. Like, if I go to see a UFC fight, I go because I've done MMA, I've practiced it for years, and when I see someone do a certain move, I know that I wouldn't be able to pull off at the rate that they did it or the way they did it. I get like I get in awe because it's amazing that to see someone perform at the level that they do. So the reason I think that we watch male athletes instead of female athletes is because, like I said, we want to watch people that are peak performers, people that are doing shit that we know we can't do. We never want to ask ourselves, could I beat that person in a game? So maybe sometimes people in the audience feel like this female athlete's not that good. You know, LeBron could totally take her on. You know, we don't want to say that. We want to be able to say, damn, no one could beat that guy. Man, he's too good. People, as human beings, we like to look for people to idolize. So that's why people like LeBron James or like Kobe or Michael Jordan, Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor, all those people, we idolize them because we know that there's this kind of mystique around them that we'll never achieve it. So we want to look for almost for like a leader or something like that. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Pay equity. So, all right. A little bit after that, the girl was telling me all this shit about, so how come the WNBA players get paid less and the male NBA players get paid more? I told her the basic thing that I just said right now, but in like 10 seconds, and she just stood there not knowing what to say to me because she had no response for it, which was kind of interesting because it goes to show that sometimes people talk out of their ass. Like people get taught something and they think because they got taught it that it's automatically correct. But you have to consider that people that are professors that teach at universities, I think the statistic is like, I think 93% of all professors across the nation are on the left. And there's like a vast misrepresentation of people on the right or people in the middle in on these campuses. So people on the left are gonna push these left agendas, and now everyone that comes out of a university is gonna be on the left. Now, I'm not saying I'm on the right or that I'm on the left. I actually don't even know where I land on the political spectrum, and I don't even like to identify because if I identify, then people are gonna already see me a certain way. So, but I do think that in order to be objective and to understand knowledge and to understand reality and the world around us, we have to listen to both sides. Because, like, let's say, for example, I have two little brothers, and when they get into fights, I always like to separate them. Like, when my little brother comes up to me and he's crying and he's telling me that my other little brother, like, pushed him or, like, hit him or whatever, I like to separate them to hear both stories, you know? So the little one that's crying will tell me, oh, he pushed me and now I'm hurt, my arm hurts or something, I got a bruise. And I'm like, okay, what'd you do to make him push you? And then he'll be telling me something like, I didn't do anything. So I'll be like, all right, get the fuck out. You know, I bring in the other one, and then I'm like, why'd you push him? And he'd be like, oh, he unplugged my PS4 while I was playing Fortnite. And I'll be like, okay, although that wasn't a good enough reason to hit him, you shouldn't be hitting him. But like that goes to show that there's always two sides to every story. And the same thing, unfortunately, is in politics. Basically, what political parties are two brothers getting into fights. But at the end of the day, we're all brothers. You know, I know that sounded cheesy as fuck, but it kind of rings true if you think about it. At the end of the day, we're all part of the United States of America. There's all these different political parties that are always fighting against each other, whether it be the people on the left, the people on the right, or the centrists or the libertarians. People are always fighting. But if we just sat down and talked about this and like heard each other out instead of always trying to talk over one another, we wouldn't be as polarized as we are now. And that's why I think mediums like podcasts are important, because you could if there's two people talking on each side of the political spectrum, you could hear and you could listen to the objective conversation between them. You could decipher what you want to know, what you want to believe in. So I think it's important that everyone gives every side a shot if we want to really understand, because otherwise you're just going to be building what's it called? pushing your agenda, pushing your ideas, like confirmation bias. That's what it's called. Confirmation bias. What that pretty much is you're going to look for every statistic. You're going to look for every piece of evidence that proves you correct when you might in the end be wrong. Confirmation bias is very dangerous because I've been a part of that. I was on the left for a good while. I knew I was on the left. I voted for Bernie. I didn't vote for Bernie, but like I supported Bernie. But as soon as I went to college and I started listening to podcasts, I started realizing, holy shit, there's more to it than this. And now I'm not anywhere. I'm just like, oh, okay, fucking, just like listen to what everyone's saying, and I'll put my comments in there. And now I have a podcast, and hopefully someone's out there listening to this shit, and they're rethinking their political ideologies and so forth. So yeah. Back to the scenario that happened in class. So I told her that she didn't have a response, and then luckily this was like 2 minutes before class ended. It was like the last thing that she was teaching that day, and I was able to escape because everyone was shouting with one another. And the thing that was crazy was that after I said that, there was people sitting in the classroom. It was a large class. It's actually the largest classroom at our university. It's at University Lecture Hall. So it seats like 450 plus students, and there was people in the audience in the classroom that were saying like, that's right, like speak the truth or whatever. And there was people like arguing with one another on this side and arguing with one another on this side. And to me, that showed to me more than anything else that people that think differently are often quiet, and their voices are not heard because they're afraid of the response. You know, we think about the people on the right as being these bullies, being these people that oppress, and we give them all these we put all this negative connotation on the people on the right. But if you go to places like California, it's actually the people on the left that are being bullies, that are actually talking over people on the right, that are actually pushing their ideas more than the people on the right are. And it's kind of disgusting because, you know, I grew up in Boyle Heights in a community where the left is all no one's on the right here. Nobody's on the right. No one even thinks centrism. Everyone's on the left no matter what. People are voting Bernie here no matter what. So growing up in a community where it's vastly leftist, it kind of shocked me because I don't like to see a team that I was once on bullying the team that we thought was the enemy. It's kind of messed up because now you're seeing this reverse antagonism. Like you're seeing all these people getting you're seeing people on the right just getting their shit, like, it's fucked up. People on the left are bullying the people on the right, and there's no representation of people on the right, and that's why there's no objectivity and there's a lot of subjectivity. That's pretty much all I'm trying to say. Number 8, making college affordable for all. Like I said, this is also one of those things that sound like a good idea, but in reality, it's going to fuck up the economy. So let me read this out for you guys. In today's highly competitive global economy, millions of Americans are unable to afford the higher education they need in order to get good paying jobs. Further, with both parents now often at work, most paying working class families can't locate the high quality and affordable child care they need for their kids. Quality education in America, from child care to higher education, must be affordable for all. Without a high quality and affordable education system, we will be unable to compete globally, and our standard of living will continue to decline. Shit. It talks about the college, but it doesn't talk about the actual plan. So Bernie's plan back in 2016, I believe that's going to stay the same, is that the first 2 years of college is going to be, the first 2 years of college for every citizen across the nation is going to be free. No matter what, every citizen nationwide will get 2 years of free college. This is unfeasible. You can't pay that with the rates. You cannot pay for that. People are saying, well, the government could pay for it. Doesn't matter. It's not going to be my money. It's going to be the government's money. First of all, the government gets their tax money from you guys, and they use that to build their to have basically you guys are paying for everyone's first 2 years of college because you guys are paying taxes and the government gets its money from its taxes. So imagine the rate at which you're getting taxed now. Now imagine that and just skyrocket, right? It's gonna be fucked up, but you're not gonna feel it as bad as people in like the 1% are gonna feel it. And people think, oh, well, fuck it. There are people in the 1%, they could afford it. But the problem with that is that people in the 1% are usually people that are not just wealthy because of inherited wealth, or maybe they are, but they stay wealthy by investing money into different ventures and to increase their capital. If they are unable to do this, there's not going to be a stimulation in the economy. And if there's no stimulation in the economy is going to plummet. So I learned this in class like last week. Thank God my professor's pretty objective in the way he teaches. But the way he laid it out was that people that are wealthy, they need tax rates to be low so that they could invest their money to stimulate the economy. That's the only way economies grow, to invest in different ventures that's going to grow your capital. So if you're not doing that, like I said, the economy is going to plummet. And they're going to get taxed at a rate way higher than they are now. By the way, they're getting taxed over 50% right now as we speak, which is pretty fucked up because they don't get to decide whether they get taxed that much. People, since this is a democracy, we all have a say, and a lot of people vote for higher tax rates so that these people have to pay more. But I always put myself in their shoes. It's pretty messed up when imagine you make $100. Imagine now getting like a little bit below 50 back. So imagine now you make $1 million. Imagine getting less than $500,000 back. Now it sounds like, well, you're still getting a little bit less than $500,000, but for them, I mean, they need to be paying for all their investments, all their markets to keep stimulating the economy. And the economy runs on these people's investments. They run on these people's capital, and it's if you're going to be raising tax rates above, let's say 90%, they're not going to have shit to be investing money into. So it's not going to work out. And like I said, everyone's going to be taxed at all levels of income brackets. So, and like I said, there's not enough money to go around to do this kind of stuff. So it's not feasible. I mean, it sounds like a good idea. Free college sounds like a good idea, but it's just something that's going to cost a shitload of money. So it's pretty messed up. I actually wrote about healthcare as a right for all. I'm a little iffy on that one because, like I said, healthcare I think would work better if it was privatized, like any other service does. Any other service that's privatized is way better than anything that's public. Like, for example, compare public transportation to private transportation. Obviously, private transportation is better because you're putting your money into it, and they're making more money that way, and it makes it better. But public services run on tax dollars, and so it's always a lesser quality. So healthcare for all, I think, is going to be lesser quality. People like to use the arguments that, well, look at Norway or look at Sweden or look at Canada, but some Canadians say the healthcare is not that good there. Some people say, or like Norway or Sweden or I don't remember what countries are the ones that provide healthcare, but they're not the number one leading nation. They're not the number one leading economy in the world like the United States is. So they're way smaller countries. And like I said, I have mixed feelings about that one though. I'm not sure how it would turn out. So I can't say for sure that healthcare as a right for all is gonna fail or ruin the economy, but like I said, it's something that just doesn't sound like something that's either feasible or affordable. Yeah, so that pretty much covers Bernie Sanders' 12 steps forward. Well, some of them more like 4 steps because I went over like just a couple, but just to wrap things up, like I said some pretty interesting. I pointed out some interesting things about how education works in the United States or in California at least, with professors that are just teaching politics that are more left lenient. I think that people really need to rethink the way we look at professors. And if you're a student out there that goes to a university where you know the professors are very biased, I think you should speak up and say something. When you hear something wrong, or call it, or at least challenge it. If you have a different idea, or even if you heard something on this podcast that made you question it, just bring it up. And if the professor slams you and everyone slams you, hey, at least you gave it a chance, like I did, because everyone slammed me and no one was on my side that day. Everyone slammed me and told me you're wrong. You need to stop. You need to stop thinking about the male patriarchy and be more empathetic with women. And like, people were just telling me all this bullshit. And I think you're doing a disservice to everyone in that classroom if you don't bring up a differing argument, at least mentioning it, because you're doing a disservice to everyone now, because now they're thinking an entirely subjective idea. So thank you guys for listening to the podcast today. Hopefully it was good, and I'm gonna try to upload this as quick as possible. And guys, like I said, get your Girl Scout cookies. Don't be dicks, man. They're everywhere, man. I was just at Walmart. They're outside of Walmart. They're on campus. There's like a bunch of them on campus. Go support the Girl Scouts. Don't be fucking. Don't just walk by them. You know, there'll be innocent little children just coming up to, would you like to buy some Girl Scout cookies? And people just walk straight ahead, just fucking. They can't see them. It's fucked up, man. I don't know how people could do that, man. Today they offered me again, like, hey, you want to buy Girl Scout cookies? I said, look, man, I already bought Girl Scout cookies. I don't need any more, thank you. But, you know, just go out there and make the fucking world a better place, man. See you guys next time. That is a wrap.